Hey y'all, well it is exhaust time now, and I got this 3-inch ID, which is freaking awesome. It's like the same size as my 3-inch ID V-band, and it seems to fit perfect, so that's a good thing. You know, normally we would just look at the sticker and see what it is. It says 3-inch, and then where it would say OD or ID is scratched out. So I'm pretty sure it's ID though. It should be, which that's pretty cool. Now I'm going to make a 2.5 to 3 Y out of this, which that's all I got to work with, but it's going to be a tight space anyway, so I don't really need a whole lot of length on it. If I do, I can weld a little bit that way. So I guess we're just going to chop that there, just bring them together, and then we'll attach our 3-inch to it and make a little Y pipe. Obviously there's not a whole lot of room to work with, but I really wish I could come down this side because there's more room that way, but then I'll be right under the fuel pump, and I really don't want to have the exhaust pipe right underneath it. It's that little hump right there that comes down, so I want to go that way. It's just kind of tight. It would be a lot easier to go on the driver's side, but we are going to route it that way somehow. It's going to be a tight fit getting through the diff as well, and then I'm going to come back and go straight out to the passenger side and just cut my fart can at an angle. So I'm sitting here contemplating on which way I'm going to go with this, but I think that that's what I'm going to have to do. I don't know. I'm just going to make this Y pipe and get some pipe in here and see where it's going to sit remotely close to where it's going to be, and just go from there, which is pretty much what I've done with everything else here, and most of everything's worked out so far except for that diff, which I'm gonna luckily, okay, so if you ever build one of these, get you a parts car, get you extra parts. I actually bought a rear subframe before I bought any of these cars, and I was just gonna make it because I already had the diff, so I'd have that done. I didn't end up doing that. That's a good thing I didn't end up doing that, because I still have that subframe sitting back there, and then I have another one from that parts car. So if you're making custom stuff and you really, or you've never done it before, you kind of halfway know what you're doing, have extra stuff on hand. And I mean, honestly, I feel like it's easier to be creative and just do and try things if you know in the back of your head that you have another one if you screw the first one up, and that's not all that you have. And so I mean, like I said, I have another front subframe if I need to redo the front. Hopefully not, but I have another one just in case. So, and even otherwise, just other things, like you lose a bolt, oh well, whatever, don't spend 3 hours sitting there looking for it. You got a parts car sitting over there, you can just go pull it off of that. So it makes life so much easier when doing a swap, or just doing anything in general on a project car. So that's definitely a must. I don't know how detailed I'm going to go into the filming process of this exhaust deal. I might just do like I've been doing and do little clips and pieces here. I would like to record me actually making things and time-lapse them and stuff, but my editing software I have right now kind of sucks, and I'm not really good at it. I'm still learning how to edit. I kind of figured out how to, I did figure out how to time-lapse and overlay music, but it won't let me do little sections at a time. I can basically it'll just be like the whole video is one section. So I'm looking into finding a different program to use to make these videos and try to bring the quality up a little bit. But hey, just like this car, we're learning as we go. Man, that ain't horrible. That didn't turn out too half bad. 2.5 to 1. That looks pretty good. I think that'll work out well. I mean, that's better than that little cheesy one that you can buy online. I mean, that thing was so freaking big. It came from like here to here, and then a big old thing, and then like there. So, I mean, this is smaller than just the center section of that one online was. So I think that's going to work out a whole lot better. And I mean, kind of short run here, but I mean, that's all I had to work with. Just building this stuff out of scrap. Trying to use as much of everything I have lying around as I can. So I mean, that's perfect though. We're in a tight space anyways, and we're just gonna pie cut up to that. And I think that I might have to go on the side where the fuel pump is under the gas tank. I'll just put some heat shield under it or something. I don't think it'll even be that big of a deal, but still, if I could go on the other side, I'd like to, but I think I'm going to have to route it down the driver's side. Time to take this and crawl up under the car and sit there for like an hour staring at stuff. Alright, well, it's the next day. I had the day off today, so I stayed up till like 6 something in the morning last night, or this morning, working on the exhaust. I've got it pie cut up to the Y, so I'm about to pull it out and weld it out, and then we're gonna route back on the driver's side because it's just the most plausible way to go about this, and finish it up today and make this whole fart can a thing that I think is gonna look so cool. So if it's on the back end of a V8, is it still a fart can? I'm not sure what to call it. Maybe a queef can? I don't know. Maybe not. I think it's gonna sound pretty cool regardless. I mean, it's basically just like a tip anyway. I mean, it's not like an actual muffler, it's just got baffling in it, so I think it'll sound pretty cool. Here we go, let's start routing the rest of the exhaust. Just remember, y'all, you ain't gotta be pretty to work. I mean, I could grind this stuff down, but I honestly really don't care what it looks like. And if somebody does see it, I think it's just like way cooler that it looks like crap, but I still beat you. I think it looks good. The welds aren't great. I honestly don't prep my exhaust whenever, I mean, who's got time to grind on all the little pie cuts anyways? And I mean, they're not going to stay in place. I mean, it works as long as it gets the exhaust to the back. That's all I'm worried about. About to throw it back in the car and make sure it still fits, and we're gonna build from there. Well, many hours later, and this is what I have. I swear, dude, like, this takes so long to do. Just making the pie cuts one by one on 3-inch takes freaking forever. Like, at least 5 minutes per pie cut. And the whole test fitting thing turned out alright. Probably end up pie cutting this and making that a little more smooth at some point. It was a really weird angle where I was going through the diff. I thought I was gonna run out of pipe. I ended up having 1.5 feet left, maybe, if that. We would have had enough, but I mean, I got it all tacked up in the car and I started up for a second, and honestly, pretty freaking bummed out. It's extremely quiet. Like, really quiet compared to what it was. I mean, it's still kind of loud, but not really. So it went from like being extremely too obnoxiously loud to like really quiet, relatively speaking, I guess. I'd like it to be a little louder. I can't imagine that this muffler actually quiets it down like that. I mean, it's just straight through. I don't know. We'll see once we get to the point where we can like really rev it up high and see how it sounds. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it doesn't need to be that loud. But, I mean, we got exhaust now. So now I'm going to spend like the next hour or so welding all these little pie cuts and stuff up, and hopefully it stays in its same shape by the time I'm done. So here we go with the welding. Well, off to a great start already. That's gonna make life way easier. Let's zip tie it together, I guess. Well, there it is. It's welded out and doesn't look great, but lucky for us, this is gonna be under the car, so it really doesn't matter. It doesn't look horrible. I mean, if I had a better welder than that, I think it would come out halfway decent. That thing's on his last leg. Like, the wire keeps getting like caught up inside the tube. I don't know. My beads looked a lot prettier when it was brand new, but I mean, I've definitely got my money's worth out of it. It was like $100. Once I recoup from this build, I think it'll be time to invest in a better welder. I mean, it works, and that's, you know, what matters. I mean, this works. It's gonna hold. It's gonna do its job. So if I do a bumper cut, I might go down in there and like grind down the welds that you will see, but otherwise, it's whatever. It's not that big a deal. So now I'm gonna put the thing in the car, hope that it didn't move at all, and make a couple hangers for it and be done with it. Okay, well, I scrapped the video that I took last night. You couldn't see anything in it. It was even worse than the last 2 clips before this one. So for some reason the camera doesn't want to work right at nighttime, even though I got the same amount of lighting and it worked right before. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. Got to get that figured out. But so for everybody that hasn't seen how I made the downpipes, I'll just go ahead and start from the front and go all the way to the back. On the driver's side, we just have a few pie cuts coming down, and then we have our wideband O2 behind that. On the passenger side, we have a lot more of aggressive bend. Exhaust manifold ended up like in the back corner over here of the engine bay, right above the subframe. So I had to notch the subframe. It comes down, goes over, and then down, and then back. And I mean, it's literally a couple sheets of notebook paper off of the subframe and off of the starter. You can see where I notched the frame there, and then it comes back. They both come back to V-bands, and then we come back from the V-bands over top of the transmission cross member. On this side, we had to kind of like make a little S. We went up and then kind of back straight, and then we're pie cutted this way to our Y pipe. We follow this back, put a little heat shield on the wire going to my reverse switch. Also, I don't think I ever mentioned about the reverse switch. I actually got a 350Z reverse switch plug from Wiring Specialties and just wired it up through the stock Miata wiring. And then we're coming back to another V-band before the diff. V-band right before the diff, because the pipe will not fit between the ear on the front of the diff and the bottom of the subframe right there. And this is where it gets a little janky. We're gonna redo this with a couple pie cuts just to make that flow a little bit better. And we're pie cut it up to straight, and then another bend. Pie cut it up to a bend, over to straight, and then back to our muffler, which ended up at a pretty good spot. I think it looks cool. I wanted it out at an angle, and I think it looks pretty good where it ended up. So now the question is to see what it sounds like. When I started up before I welded it out, when I had it all tacked together, it sounded really quiet then. I can't imagine that having it welded out is going to change the sound that much or make it much louder, but let's see what she sounds like. That is very quiet. Extremely quiet. I mean, it sounds good, but that's really quiet. Well, I mean, it sounds good. Kind of getting some Subaru vibes from it. It kind of sounds different. I don't know. I guess I really didn't know what to expect putting that muffler on there, but I really don't think it has a whole lot to do with the muffler. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I mean, it sounds good. It's just really quiet. I mean, my Daily's louder than this. I'm trying to quiet that down, and I wanted this to be really loud. I want this to be a screamer. So, I don't know. I mean, it sounds good. I still got to figure out the whole tune deal. It's going really lean when you rev it up. I got to figure out what's going on with that. Now that I have the exhaust routed to the back, I don't hear any vacuum leaks up here, which is a good thing. So I need to figure out exactly why it's leaning out. It seems like it runs really rich and then it runs really lean when you rev it. I'm not 100% sure what that is. So that'll be the next thing to figure out, I guess. And I mean, just for comparison, I'll show you what the Daily sounds like, and that has 2 mufflers on it. So I just realized that I forgot to record an outro for this video. All in all, I mean, I'm happy with how the exhaust turned out. It's just rather quiet for my liking. I wanted it to be a little bit louder. I guess it adds to the whole incognito thing, which is cool. In person, it sounds a lot quieter. It honestly sounds a little louder on video, and the Daily sounds a little quieter on video. It's way louder. It's so obnoxious. Like I need to tune it down a little bit somehow. I'm thinking about adding a couple glass packs after the fact. You know, it's kind of funny adding glass packs to quiet your exhaust down, but that's a whole nother deal itself. And that's only 2-inch pipe. But still, it kind of does sound like a Subaru in person. It's kind of weird. Obviously not when you rev it out really high, but when you like really low rev, and I don't know, it sounds different. But anyways, if you made it this far in the video, you're the real MVPs, and I appreciate y'all watching, and we'll see y'all in the next one.